behalf of US Jet AA and Pasona, welcome to Beyond Jet, linking Japan to your next career. We have a mix of jets and alumni joining us, which is wonderful. For alums in the US, thanks for spending your Friday evening with us. For jets in Japan, thank you for starting your Saturday morning with us. My name is Jessica Livingston. I'm the executive director of the US Jet Alumni Association. I was an ALT in Hokkaido from 2003 to 2006. And when I came back from Japan in 2006, it was a while ago, but that return was pretty rough. I think it's arguably much more difficult to return from jet than to go on jet. And one of the most overwhelming pieces is finding that next job. And so this discussion is really designed for jets and alumni who are thinking about how to continue their relationship with Japan through their next professional step. After the deep experience that we all get through JET, it really makes a lot of sense, like perfect sense, to explore careers that continue to connect with Japan, whether that's through like international education, diplomacy, business, or another path entirely. There's so many jets and we go into so many different industries. So there's a lot to navigate when you're making like any career track change. I mean, you've got to figure out how to translate your jet experience into a new career and then understand what opportunities are out there and then how to approach them. And it can feel really overwhelming. So hopefully this discussion is going to give you a clearer sense of the landscape and help you understand what options are out there and the resources that are available to support you along the way. So US Jet AA is a nonprofit, and our mission is essentially to help jets continue to be that bridge between the US and Japan. So this means personally, but oftentimes it also means professionally. So we really want to help you succeed in carrying out that mission in ways that are meaningful and impactful to you and your community. And so this idea of serving as a bridge takes on many forms, including in the business world. So we kind of share that mission with Pasona, which is why we're really happy to partner with them on this webinar. We've built what I feel like is really truly a win-win relationship with Pasona through our corporate sponsorship over the past few years. Jets are an exceptional talent pool with really strong cross-cultural skills, adaptability, flexibility, and obviously really deep Japan experience. And many of us want to keep using our Japan experience professionally. And at the same time, Pasona is looking for exactly that kind of talent so they can match the right person with the right role. So I'm really delighted to have Desmond Pentony and I, Sakashita, with us from Pasona. Desmond and I both bring perspectives and backgrounds that I think are going to resonate with many of you. And most importantly, they bring the insight that can really pull back the curtain on job hunting in this space. So just a few quick housekeeping notes before we begin. We're going to start with Desmond and I, who have prepared some really fantastic slides and information to share with all of you. And then we're going to move into about 30 minutes of dedicated Q&A and breakout rooms. So Desmond will host a breakout room and I will host a breakout room. And then we'll all come back together here in the main lobby to close out the event. You are welcome to ask questions along the way. Desmond and I they're going to share a QR code. And so they have kind of a specific form that they want you to send those questions to them in. If you forget and you put your questions in the chat, I'll do my best to sort of collect them. But also, just make note that it can be challenging to present and engage in the chat simultaneously. So if your question doesn't get answered along the way, just bring it to the Q&A portion at the end. Like I said, we're recording the main presentation portion of this event, but not the Q&A. All just because there's so many kind of private conversations that happen there. And like I mentioned, all registrants are going to receive a link to the recording along with any resources and URLs that kind of come up during the discussion. So you guys can really just focus on the information that's being shared and just be fully present. I think that's it. So with that, I am very happy to hand it over to Desmond and I with a big yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
Thank you very much, Jessica. I appreciate the introduction. So I believe my slideshow should be shared for everybody. So I'll just go ahead and begin. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Desmond Pentony, and I am a recruiter with Pasona North America. Today's webinar is called Beyond Jet, Linking Japan to Your Next Career. And I'll share a more detailed intro of my background shortly. But first, I wanted to speak a little bit about the topic of today's webinar. So the idea behind it is rather simple. I think your experience in Japan doesn't have to be separate from your career path. So whether you're still in Japan, recently came back, or have already been back for a while, your jet experience can be a real professional strength. So today I'll cover the current job market, some common industries, common roles for bilingual and bicultural candidates, and also a few ways to consider how to best leverage your professional background and the experience you got from your time with Jet. Also joining us today is my colleague, Ai Sakashita-san, who is also a recruiter, and she'll be speaking about halfway through the webinar. She'll pick it up. So if you don't mind, Ai-san, would you briefly introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Konbanwa and then good morning in Japan. My name is Ai Sakashita, and as a quick introduction, I am currently in Salt Lake City, Utah. So it's almost 5:10 p.m. Mountain Time here on Friday. And then I was born and raised in Japan. Especially, I grew up in Nagano. That was my entire life there. So if anyone who is currently in Nagano, hello, I miss that place. And during my and then I did the study abroad, 1 year study abroad at the University of Utah as an exchange student, and then after that, I went back to Japan. I worked as a just office clerk 4 years, and then I ended up coming back to Utah in 2016. And then my recruiting career started there. I have been a recruiter since 2017, and the first job as a recruiter was actually recruiter for specifically I was a recruiter specifically for Interac. I'm sure a lot of you guys know what kind of company Interac is. They are AOT provider, private sector. And I worked there for 4 years and a half. And then I joined Pasona in 2022. And this is my fifth year as a Pasona recruiter. And thank you so much. I'm excited to meet you all. And yep, that's it. Back to you, Desmond.
Right, thank you, Ai-san. So, just before we get started, like we mentioned a little bit before, Jessica brought it up. So the questions, I've prepared this QR code. It links to Microsoft Forms. So if you have anything that comes to mind during the presentation, feel free to submit them here. You don't have to wait until the end. And if something comes to mind while we're talking, go ahead, just send it in. We're doing our best to keep the questions organized. So if possible, just try to submit them here and we'll get to them at the end. All right. So, um, just a brief interview of what we want to cover. I'll be speaking on the market update, the industries and roles, and then Ai-san will pick it up from the industries by region, cultural considerations, and then at the end we'll wrap it up with the Q&A. All right. So, for those who may not be familiar with us, Pasona North America, we are an HR consulting firm specializing in recruiting and staffing services. We help connect candidates with Japanese companies and vice versa across the United States, including many Japanese and Japanese-related companies. The short and sweet of what my company does is we connect companies with candidates, bicultural, bilingual, and do our best to help people move forward with their career. So I know that each of our situations are unique, and of course, but one thing we have in common is a connection to Japan. And at some point, we are finding ourselves, or have already found ourselves, back in the United States. So I actually considered Jet at one point before I took my move to Japan. But I did take a different path eventually. I did just go there to study Japanese exclusively at language schools. I did a language school for 2 years. I went to Senmon Gakko for a couple years. And then from there, I transferred into a university and did my final 2 years, totaling 6 years, just studying Japanese, studying the culture. And I was in Kyoto. So I really consider Kyoto to be like my second home. I don't think I mentioned it in the beginning of my introduction, but originally I'm from Florida and currently I'm based in Chicago, Illinois, for the Pasona branch. So I've kind of been all over the place. But about Japan, Japan, it was my dream country since I was very young. So I feel very lucky that I was able to live there for about 6 years. But like many of us, and maybe even some of us here today, the pandemic did force me to make a difficult decision, and I decided to return to the United States. And coming back from Japan can be a very strange experience. Reverse culture shock is real, and it often shows up in a lot of ways that we do not expect. Me being from Florida, just geographically speaking, I was probably as far as I could possibly be away from Japan, so it felt foreign to me to be back in my own country, but so far from a place that I was so familiar with. And then wanting to continue to use my Japanese, continue to use my cultural understanding, I decided to join Pasona and stay connected in any way that I could. And just as a bonus side effect, I'm able to provide a lot of support for others that are trying to do similar things and have similar thoughts to what I've had in the past. But about the reverse culture shock, there's small things like I remember coming back and just switching from different hair products. I was putting American shampoos and stuff in my hair and it just dried out my scalp. I couldn't get used to it. The food took me a good month or two to get used to again. I had an appetite, but I just didn't want to eat anything. It just wasn't the same as what I was used to, the produce and everything. So some small reverse culture shock there, but in a larger view, you want to continue to move forward in your career. So moving forward professionally was important to me. So I'd like to be able to provide some insight for all of you. But after Jet or after whatever it was you were doing in Japan, suddenly you're back home. Much of your experiences were in a different country, and you have to explain this huge experience in just a few resume bullets or justify it in a short interview answer. So whether returning to the United States was by choice or not, I know the transition can be unclear, sometimes frustrating. So today I want to help you think about how to really understand your own experiences in Japan and as an easily presentable strength, and more importantly, into a next step that feels right for you. All right, so first section, we're going to get into market updates, and we've been doing these for a while now, and there's always some good news and some bad news, and but I did feel much more positive writing the update this time. It's still a difficult market, to be honest, but things are moving in the right direction, so I'll try to keep it as positive as I possibly can. Let's start with the job market that you're coming back into. If I had to describe it right now in one word, I would say it's a cautious market. Um, Companies are still hiring, but they are being very selective. In many cases, they are not hiring just to grow teams. They are hiring for specific roles that they need to have filled. And a lot of that caution comes from things we're all seeing in the news generally, like tariffs, global conflict, AI, inflation, and general uncertainty about the economy. So if your job search feels slower or less predictable than you expected, that doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It's just the market that we're in right now. But the good news is that it's still moving. The US is still adding jobs, and unemployment has stayed relatively stable. So there are opportunities out there, but the best thing to keep in mind is you just need to keep yourself flexible and be strategic. So I would describe this maybe as a negotiator's market. It's not completely an employer's market. It's not completely a candidate's market either. Like I said, companies are being cautious, especially around salary and hiring decisions, but strong candidates still have plenty of opportunity, especially those who bring Japanese language ability, cross-cultural experience, or skills that directly connect to the role, which all of you do already have. The main thing is just leveraging it effectively. So in areas like manufacturing, supply chain, and logistics, semiconductors as well, there are some bright spots. Semiconductor related investment in the United States has been growing, and that supports a lot of related industries in areas where Japanese companies have a lot of presence. So just by them being so doing well in the areas that a lot of Japanese companies are, there's a lot of overflow effects. So there's a lot of movement happening in those areas. But it's like I said, it's cautious, but it's not hopeless. So just being strategic, flexible, and patient, and focusing on roles that move you closer to where you want to go, not just the highest paying role in your preferred industry. Using your Japan experience and understanding it as as a strength, you already have proven that you can be adaptable and communicate across cultures and handle unfamiliar situations. So those are real professional skills, and they carry a lot more weight than you might even realize. And let's see. So specifically, Japanese companies in the United States, there are a few major trends shaping the market right now. First, the yen does continue to be weak, which makes it harder for some Japanese companies to invest heavily overseas. And at the same time, Japan is dealing with inflation in a way that feels very different from the Japan many of us remember. Um, but those of you that are still there, I'm sure you're very aware of the state and the effects of the currency. But because of that, a lot of Japanese companies are thinking very carefully about how they operate in the United States. And one trend we're seeing is a stronger shift towards local hires and local leadership. So instead of relying only on expats sent from Japan, companies have been increasingly needing people who understand the US market, but can also communicate well with Japan headquarters. So that's a good place where Jet alumni, current Jets, or those that have had experience with Japan in some form and understand it well enough, that can be a very valuable position to be in. And companies are starting to become more aware of the value that is there. And that's what I mean by like I call it like the Japan bubble. It's a lot of companies tend to focus on expats, send them to the States, but that is becoming a lot less frequent. So growing beyond the Japan bubble is what a lot of companies are trying to do recently. So let's see. For Jet alumni, I think that this is a huge opportunity. You may not have a traditional business background, but you do have something valuable, which is an understanding of Japanese culture, the communication style, work expectations, and this can be very helpful for companies trying to bridge the US and Japan sides of business. And the most common roles that we do see for JET alumni are sales, interpretation and translation, logistics, admin or clerical roles, and accounting. And we'll give some more details about that in a bit. But sales generally is one of the biggest areas, especially B2B sales, business to business sales. Interpretation and translation can be good for stronger Japanese speakers. Logistics is growing because of manufacturing and supply chain needs. Administrative roles can be a good entry point into Japanese companies. And accounting can also become more active, especially for candidates who have some related experience or interest in accounting. So the main takeaway being Japanese companies in the United States are changing. They need people who can understand both sides of the business, and that's exactly where I believe all of you can stand out. And then we'll just hop right into the industries and roles, just a bit more detail. So, some of the top industries and roles for Japanese and bilingual and bicultural candidates. This is not a comprehensive, exhaustive list, but it should give you a good starting point if you're interested in working with Japanese or Japan-related companies. The biggest area being manufacturing. Traditionally, automotive manufacturing has been one of the strongest industries for Japanese companies here, and it's still very important. But right now, one of the fastest growing areas is semiconductors. The growth supports a lot of related fields, like I mentioned just a bit earlier, just by having that concentration and like their business doing so well in areas that Japanese companies are very concentrated. The effects are felt all around. So it's really building up a lot of the business in those areas. Um, but let's see. I'm sorry, I just lost my spot for a moment. Um, but the growth, yeah, it supports a lot of related fields, logistics, supply chain, trading, manufacturing equipment, and engineering support. So even if you're not an engineer, there can still be opportunities connected to these industries. For JET alumni, what I believe is the key is to think broadly. Your value isn't only Japanese language ability or the cultural understanding, it's also your ability to communicate across the cultures and adapt quickly and help US and Japan side teams work together. The next one I want to talk about is sales and account management. This is another one of the most common roles we see for bilingual and bicultural candidates. And usually, when people hear sales, sometimes they picture door-to-door sales or high-pressure cold calling, but it's usually not. That's not what we're talking about here. In Japanese companies, the B2B sales roles, instead of selling directly to individual customers, you are usually working with other companies that need the product or the service. So your job is less about pushing something onto someone, and it's more about building trust and understanding the customer's needs and maintaining that long-term relationship. So this is an area where bilingual and bicultural candidates can be very valuable. You may be communicating with customers, American customers on one side and Japanese headquarters or Japanese management on the other. A lot of the job is bridge building, so helping both sides understand each other and working together smoothly is the main focus, the meat of sales roles. But one good thing about it is that sales usually do not require a specific degree if that's something you're concerned about. Japanese ability, of course, it can help, especially around N3 or above. And N3, that's not terribly unattainable for those who have some experience in Japan. But it's not always required if you're already comfortable working in the Japanese business environment. Um, that said, sales is still sales. You do need to be comfortable communicating with customers, following up, and being measured on results. But for candidates without a STEM degree, it can be one of the highest paying bilingual career paths. Next, administrative and clerical roles are another common entry point for JET alumni and bilingual candidates. These roles may not sound as exciting as some of the others, but they can be a very practical way to get your foot in the door at a Japanese company. One of the advantages being that administrative roles often interact with many different parts of the business. So they interact with sales, they interact with accounting, interact with HR, logistics, management, even Japanese headquarters on occasion, depending on the role. So you really get a broad view of how the company actually operates and understanding those different areas of the company. In Japanese companies, especially, internal mobility can be very common. So if you understand culture, build trust, and show that you're reliable, there may be opportunities to move into other departments later. The point being, administrative roles, again, they're not the most exciting, but they do give you a very good view internally and opportunity to potentially transition into other internal roles within those companies in that industry. Um, these roles, they can often be combined with translation or interpretation work, especially when there are Japanese managers or staff who need help communicating with local employees or vendors or customers. And also, they usually do not require a specific degree, so N3 or above is often helpful, but not always required. So as a long-term career path, it really does depend on the company and the role, but as an entry point, it can be a solid option, especially if you are figuring out, still which direction you want to go. And then we have accounting and finance. This can also be a very strong path for bilingual candidates. The reason being pretty simple, money. Money is one of the more important, or if not the most important, of any part of any business. And companies really do need people who can communicate accurately between the U.S. side and the Japan side. So in these roles, you might be reporting numbers to the home office, explaining financial details to local management, or helping make sure information is accurate across both sides of the company. And because accuracy is so important, the Japanese requirement is usually a bit higher than some other roles into level can be expected. And for higher level roles, companies may ask for N1 or fully business proficient Japanese. This is also one of the higher paying common bilingual career paths, but it usually requires a bit more of a specific background, being a background in accounting, finance, business, or an MBA. And CPA holders also tend to have stronger earning potential. That said, we have started to see some lower level accounting roles with slightly more flexible Japanese requirements. So even if you're not at into yet, it may still be worth keeping an eye on this area if you have an interest in finance or numbers, or if you consider yourself a very detailed, accurate person. I think that accounting and finance roles could be a very good option. And next, I'll talk a little bit about purchasing and supply chain. These roles can be a good fit also for bilingual and bicultural candidates. The simple way to think about purchasing is it's almost like reverse sales. So instead of selling your company's products to customers, you're working with suppliers to buy the materials, the parts, or the services that your company needs. And for Japanese companies, bilingual candidates can be valuable because you may be communicating with suppliers, customers, headquarters in Japan. So you still need strong communication skills, but it is usually much less sales driven than an account management role. These jobs, they often involve a lot of production planning, order management, inventory, pricing, timelines, and data analysis. So even if you do not need a specific degree, you do also need to be organized, again, detail oriented and comfortable working with numbers. And practically speaking, Excel is huge in this. So if you are good at Excel or if you're interested in this area, brushing up on your Excel may would really help leave a strong impression when you're going through interviews or applying for these roles. So purchasing, it can have really strong potential, especially as you're gaining experience. Logistics and trading roles may involve more Japanese communication, so those can be good options for candidates who want to use their language skills a bit more directly. And then, excuse me, interpretation and translation. So this is one of the most obvious career paths people think when they have Japanese language ability. So I won't spend too much time explaining what it is, but the main point that I want to make is that specialization in this field matters. General Japanese ability is useful, of course, but translators and interpreters who understand a specific field, like manufacturing, legal, medical, finance, or engineering, they usually have much more earning potential. So getting involved in specializing in one specific field, something that you're interested in, and being very involved and very versed in that field, plus your Japanese language skills, that can really uh, move you forward among these roles. So that being interpretation plus accounting experience, or translation plus logistics, or translation plus HR, or interpretation plus manufacturing, the combination is what really opens the doors a lot more than language ability alone. And again, most companies, N2 is usually the minimum level where they do start to take candidates seriously for translation or interpretation work. For more advanced or technical roles, N1 or near expert ability may be preferred. So if this is a path that you're interested in, I would think of Japanese as the foundation, but not the whole career. The more you can pair it with industry knowledge and another professional skill, the stronger your options become in interpretation and translation. And then engineering. The most common ones that we see among Japanese manufacturing companies, these areas are mechanical, electrical, and industrial engineering. In these roles, bilingual engineers can be very valuable because they can help keep communication moving between the US side, the Japan side, the customers, and internal teams. A lot of the job is really making sure that the product, the process, or the project stays on track. So this could mean solving technical problems, explaining customer requirements, supporting production, or helping Japan headquarters understand what is happening locally. And engineering also being one of the higher paying bilingual career paths. But unlike some of the other roles we talked about, it usually does require a specific engineering degree or technical background. But there are many ways that you can get your foot in the door if you're interested in the technical side. So, for example, CAD classes or design related training can often help candidates move forward towards entry level design or technical support roles. And then Japanese ability, this one actually, the requirement can be generally a bit lower than roles like interpretation or even accounting. They might even accept a strong N5 or an N4 or above, of course, in some cases, because the main value that you're bringing here is technical skill. In engineering, knowing the technical language and being able to communicate clearly about the product is often much more important than having perfect Japanese. And let's see. So IT, I know a lot of IT is huge. And there's probably a good amount of you that are here to hear a little bit about this. It's another area where bilingual and bicultural candidates can be very valuable. There's a wealth of roles, but most commonly we do see software engineering, cybersecurity, systems support, or IT project coordination. And traditionally, bilingual IT professionals have been in high demand because they can support both the technical side and the communication between US and Japan side teams. That said, the US tech market is more difficult right now than it was a few years ago. Companies are being very selective, and entry-level IT roles can be hugely competitive. Because of that, just completing a coding boot camp, it may not be enough on its own. So most companies, they are looking for a relevant degree, professional experience, certifications, or a clear technical portfolio that can show what you can actually do. And Japanese ability requirements are all over the place. They can vary quite a bit. Usually for customer-facing roles, companies may want stronger Japanese, sometimes N2 or N1, because you might need to explain technical issues clearly to clients or to Japanese headquarters. And then for more internal technical roles, the Japanese requirement may be a bit lower if your technical skills are strong. The takeaway being IT, it's a very strong path, but it's not an easy shortcut. If you're interested in this field, focus on building real technical skills, getting some practical experience, and showing some proof of what you can actually do. And here we have HR and recruiting. So this is also a very good fit for bilingual and bicultural applicants and candidates. In Japanese companies in the United States, HR is usually led locally because employment laws and workplace standards and hiring practices are very different between Japan and the US. Companies need people who can understand the local market, but can also communicate clearly with Japanese management. And this is where bilingual and bicultural candidates can be very helpful in this area. HR and recruiting, it often acts as a bridge between management and employees, or between the company and the candidates, like what I do and what my colleague here, Ai-san, does. Um, and being able to understand both communication styles, both in the US side and the Japanese side, those expectations, it can really help make the whole process a lot smoother. So for HR roles, companies may prefer a related degree or HR certification, especially if the role is a bit more specialized. And then recruiting, it's usually a little bit more flexible and does not always require a specific degree or certification. And Japanese requirements, they can vary quite a bit here as well. Some companies, they might only need conversational Japanese, especially if they already have an established US presence. Others may ask for N2 or higher if they are newer to the US or have many Japanese expats who need support. But if you like working with people, solving communication issues, and helping companies function better, HR or recruiting can be a strong path to consider. And next, we'll go into section 3, the industries by region, where my colleague Ai-san will pick up, if you may. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So then from here, I'm going to talk about industries by regions, but I just wanted to point out that, all that career opportunity in the US is not black and white thing. So, though this is, I would say pretty much accurate information, but it's just generalized information. So just FYI. All right, so let's talk about the first industry. So Japan, yes, we have great car brands, Toyota, Honda. Suzuki is actually not really here, Subaru. But yes, so Japan has a huge automotive manufacturing companies in the US too. And then these companies tend to be centered in the Midwest and in Southeast. And then specifically Midwest, we get a lot of jobs from Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, or Indiana. In a southwest region, the biggest is Georgia. Then I would say next Kentucky, but also we started to see a growth in North Carolina and Tennessee as well. So the reason why we see so many car companies in these regions are because two reasons. One, it has a huge land, and two, prices tend to be cheaper compared to other major states. So it just makes sense for manufacturing companies to build office and plants right next to each other because they have a gigantic office or plants or both in this region. They tend to hire a variety of people for different positions, such as engineers, accounting, translators, sales, or others. Um, so since these regions tend to be less populated, and then they don't really see many Japanese bilingual or bicultural people, if you're flexible location, these Midwest and Southeast are a great place to start as an entry level person because they tend to welcome people with less experience. All right, let's go to a next slide. Entertainment and media. And I am sure many of you guys are very interested in this industry. And then California is by far the biggest in terms of these industries. Of course, especially the LA region. Yes, there's a Hollywood. And then there's some in Silicon Valley as well. And then video gaming and the animation kind of companies are usually in a Hollywood region. But also we started to see some in Washington as well, but not too many. And as for the media companies, the biggest location will be a DC and a New York City, especially the news related companies. And then here's a bit of unfortunate news for you guys. So entertainment or media companies, they are extremely popular. So it is a high competitive industry. So usually it would require a few years to several years related professional experience and advanced Japanese level. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, finance companies. New York, especially New York City, is the financial capital, of course, because of Wall Street. Then after that, California, then Texas, Georgia, Washington, D.C. as well. Um, and then, and I forgot to mention California, the finance companies I see both in the Bay Area and the LA region. So it's usually, north and south region. And then also I started to see very interesting trend last couple of years. We started to see more job orders from real estate companies in Texas. And I believe that is because Texas is really a business-friendly state, so it just makes sense for Japanese company to start real estate investing in this area. And then when you think about finance companies, a lot of people tend to think, oh, banking. Yes, the banking is a type of finance companies, but there are also others such as insurance, investment, leasing, real estate. Yep, like I said. And then they are not only accounting or finance related job, but also we see sales, data analysis kind of job, or IT support jobs too. Next, I am going to talk about food and beverage companies. Oh, and then do you see slide?
Did this screen just go black? Because
Yes, it
yeah,
did.
interesting. One moment while I figure this out.
All right. Okay. So then, yes. So, but there's not many information listed on the slide, so I'm just gonna go without a map. Sorry, you guys. But the food and beverage companies. So the number one location is California, especially the LA region. That is because, yes, it's back. Thank you. Yes, and of course the California and LA region because the LA has the biggest Japanese community. So a lot of Japanese food companies and beverage companies are located there. And after that, in New York, and I also see some in Illinois and Texas too. And then many of the food or beverage companies, there are some manufacturing companies too, but most of them are food distributors. So what they do is they import a Japanese food or Asian foods from Japan or Asian countries, and then they distribute those products to the customers here. Because of that, the biggest role that we get is sales. So once they import the food products, the next step they need to do is sell. And then they mostly sell to Asian restaurants, grocery store. I also have seen some client sales like private institutions such as schools. But yeah, so those will be the most common roles we get from our clients. But also sometimes we get office clerk position admin kind. And then usually in the major states such as California or New York, because there are enough Japanese bilingual professional with experience, they tend to require business level Japanese or higher. But in a region such as like Georgia, they tend to be okay with less Japanese skill. So they might actually want to talk to you, even though your Japanese is basic or conversational level. All right, so next slide is about overseas government organizations. So I am not going to talk about much on this slide because we do not handle many opportunities in this kind of sector. Many of our clients are private sectors. Therefore, unfortunately, if you are very interested in this organization, we might not be the right person. But in general, if we get a job orders, the biggest region will be DC. Of course, has a lot of government institution there. And after that, I would say New York City, and then California. And in California, a bit in San Francisco area, and a bit in LA, I would say. Um, and then since we do not have many opportunities from these organizations, I also wanted to let you know this is my fifth year working for Pasona, and then in the last uh, previous years, I only made one successful hire, who was a JET alumni, unfortunately. So it's pretty competitive. All right. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about IT companies. So the Desmond actually covered a bit earlier, but IT companies, yes, they are struggling, and I'm going to explain a bit as well. So the biggest region is obviously Silicon Valley, and there's so many IT companies, and not only Japanese, they're also like non-Japanese as well. Then after that, New York City and Texas, and I also saw some in Illinois too. And IT industry is overall struggling, no matter what kind of company they are, because of AI. A lot of positions are already replaced by AI, and they just do not hire many people. Um, and then so Usually nowadays, unless you have a few years to several years of professional experience, um, and it is extremely hard to get in. And if you really want to get in there, but your Japanese is not strong enough, I would recommend you to take a look at jobs in non-major states, Texas, Georgia, sometimes maybe Michigan, those kind of area. And then the type of jobs varies, software developer, cybersecurity, or IT admin. So there are a variety of jobs. All right. So then logistics companies. So personally, if you are not confident about your Japanese level or you are a purely entry level person, I think logistics company will be maybe the good way to get in, gaining a career at Japanese company because the logistics companies are widespread. It's in the major states, it's in the non-major states. So I would say it's really easier to get in. And then I would say that many of JET alumni people, I think that the easier jobs to gain are admin or warehouse, or sometimes it's a combination. And then the combination job would be 50% a warehouse job, 50% admin job, and then you move up from there. But I don't think a lot of people don't want to do physical work nowadays, which I understand. I'm also not really athletic, so I can't do the physical work either. And then, so if you're interested in at entry level, if you're interested in getting an entry level job, admin kind of a job in logistics company would be a good way to get in. And there are also other type of office job called logistics coordinator. Sometimes they're called importer coordinator or export coordinator. Um, and then these coordinator jobs, if you want to become a logistics coordinator, I think the major states should not say should. You might want to avoid those major states because there's so many Japanese bilingual professional with years of logistics experience. So it is usually hard to get in. But on the other hand, states such as Texas or Georgia, because there are not many bicultural or bilingual people, they usually happy to interview entry level people with even like less Japanese language ability. All right. And then next will be, so it's not about industry, but it is top states for Japanese companies. So you see a map of the US with numbers. And then we ranked each US state from 1 to 10 according to how many jobs there are that are looking for Japanese speakers. So number one means the highest, and then 10 means the least. And then if you take a look at numbers purely, yes, the California, ranks number one, then New York ranks number two. So, if you only take a look at numbers, then you might think, oh, then there's so many jobs in these two states. But I would like you to take supply and demands into consideration. So as I mentioned briefly earlier, in those major states, there are enough Japanese speakers, bilingual with experience. So it is extremely competitive to get an entry level job competing those professionally experienced bilingual. And then, however, though, you also see other numbered states, and then I would say the states with number 3 to 6 are the sweet spot, I would call. And in those states, there are enough Japanese owned companies, but also there are not many Japanese speakers or bicultural people. So it has a good balance. So if you are okay with relocating, or being in a non-major cities, you might want to start taking looking for jobs in those states. And then you might find yourself easier to get interview opportunities. And then other states with the numbers 7 through 10, unfortunately, there's just not many Japanese companies. And I live in Utah. Yes, we ranked number 9. I don't know any other Japanese company that I worked for so far. Yes, so these states, if you're specifically looking for a job in these states, you might have a hard time finding a right job, and it might take a while until you land a good job. All right, and then last topic will be cultural considerations. So let's go to Japanese companies first. So I made 4 points here. So there are a good thing about Japanese companies, which I like to talk about here. So first of all, good training and a room to advance. So traditionally, employees in Japan, they want to work for the same company as long as they can, and also company like that way because they can grow together with employees. And then because of that traditional culture, a lot of Japanese companies here also like to grow together. Because of that, it might take a while, but they give a good training. And in my basics, in my experience, Pasona is, I think, the 4th Japanese company I worked so far. And I always had a trainer. Every single company I joined, for the first few months, I had a trainer, and then that person taught me how to do things correctly, and also they taught me how things, how the flow is. So I really like that, having that training, and then I could be independent once I learned everything. And then also, of course, your performance has to speak well, but a lot of Japanese companies tend to offer internal career development opportunity. And then I have also seen entry level joining my company, becoming a supervisor, manager in a year or so. So, yep. So that is a good thing about working in Japanese companies. And next one is a good benefit. So as you already know, the country, Japan itself offers a good insurance or national retirement plan. And then because of that, Japanese companies here tend to offer a good benefit package as well. And then I often see they offer a good insurance plan and a retirement plan with some company matching. So with it, when you get a job offer from Japanese company, yes, the base salary is very important. Yes, number itself is very important, but I also like you to take a look at other factors, including insurance, or retirement plan, or whatever. And then I like you to calculate how much the whole compensation is. And that way, I think that would help you. It is worth taking the job or not. All right, and then third one, so group focus. So this can be a good and bad, I would say. But as you know, Japanese people like to work as a team. They value working together. So usually in Japanese companies here, and also in Japan as well, the company decide to make a direction first, and then they want you to follow that direction. So depending on where company goes, your job description could be updated over time. All right, and last one, stability. So I can confidently say this is the major reason why I still work for Japanese companies. So in Japan, in general, unless they have a good reason, the companies cannot lay people off. And in the US, on the other hand, 49 states besides Montana, I think, they all have at-will employment policy, which means that companies could fire you with or without reasons. But many of Japanese companies tend to follow Japanese culture, so they usually want to keep uh, employees until absolutely they need to make a layoff. So layoffs are usually the last option. And then so here's an interesting story. So I know this person who works for American company, and then this person's company lay people off like almost every month, and then that is like almost monthly event. So I keep hearing, oh, this person got let go, or the person, like 30% of this employee in our company just gone, like that's almost normal, but it kind of extreme case. It's extreme case though. But also I have American friends. I would say 50% of American friends I know here. I think they have experience getting laid off, and they all work for American companies. So, yep. So if you are, if you really value stability, Japanese companies might be a good one to go for. All right, but also I want to talk about American companies too, because there are good things about American companies too. So, base salary. So usually American companies tend to offer better base salary. So if you look at a job description, job posting, usually American companies have higher salary, and which is very appealing. And then, so if you want to make a good living, earning a lot of money, yes, the American companies might be a good choice for you. But also, I wanted to let you know that because of the good salary base, the American companies tend to be more competitive. So it is now becoming common that people applying for 200 jobs or 300 jobs, and they might get a call back from a few companies. So that competitive. And then next one, more work to job description. So as I mentioned in previous slide, Japanese company tend to, might change your job description depending on the company's direction. But in the U.S., American companies, they usually expect you to work to a job description. So it's more like in the U.S. American companies, there are so many independent contributors, and then those independent people makes the company whole. And then I actually never heard of this word before until I came over here and started working. But I hear a lot of people saying who work for American company, and they say, "Oh, that's not in my job description, or that's not my duty." So I think that summarized that cultural difference between American and Japanese culture. All right, and the third one, faster decision making. So as I mentioned, Japan values teamwork, which can be frustrating even to me, because until everyone agrees on certain things, they cannot move forward. But in the U.S., sorry, not in the U.S., in the American companies, usually there is a decision maker. So maker makes a decision, and then everyone go for it. That's the how business tend to run here. And then so it can be very less frustrating because you don't have to wait forever until you can finally take action. But on the flip side, because of that, that pace is a lot faster, and then direction could change very quickly. So it's important that you have to be able to keep up with the speed. And last one, more job switching. So in a US companies, it's more, I would say, acceptable to do job switching frequently. So that is because Japanese companies, they want to grow with the employees, which means they want employees to stay as long as they could. That's why they offer internal career development opportunity. But in the American companies, because the you are expected to work to job description. So a lot of people actually develop the careers by switching jobs. So I did this job and I want to make more money, or I want to be manager. So that's the time they apply to a new job, and then they move up. So that's the kind of culture American companies tend to have. And then last slide is traditional to localized. So I want to talk about a current trend happening in the US. So traditionally, Japanese companies, there's this big headquarter in Japan, and then they send expats to the US. And then those expats gets the instruction orders from the HQ, and then they deliver the message to the local employees. That has been a traditional, and then there are still some traditional companies like that too. Um, but it actually created a lot of cultural conflict. For example, the HQ, they want employees to do a lot of overtime because they want to make a lot of products. But local employees, they have family or they value work-life balance. And then there has been a lot of conflict like that. But now, the world is more globalized. And then Japanese companies start to realize that they gotta change. So a lot of Japanese companies try to be more localized. And also another factor, the Japanese company becoming more localized is because of the current government administration. Because of the current administration direction, it is getting a little difficult for Japanese companies to sponsor visa for new expats. So it makes sense to hire local people. And we have seen cases, Japanese company hired local HR manager or general manager. So the companies are getting more mixed. And then the good thing is a lot of local people study to get the more get the local leadership within the companies. And that creates a cultural cooperation. And then I think this is a perfect opportunity for anyone who worked in Japan because these two cultures, Japan and America, it has really opposite culture, the culture. So, but you already have experience working in Japan, working with Japanese people, but you also have experience living and working in the US. So you have the two cultures understanding. So I think that that would be the type of company a lot of people here might want to take a look at it because they want to change, and you can be a huge you can be a huge contribution to the company. All right, so then in the last one, it's not much to talk about. Next slide. So we're gonna move on to the Q&A session. And then as Desmond said previously, we have this question form. It's in the chat as well. If you have any question, type it down, submit, and we're gonna go through in the Q&A session. And then, yep, I will give it back to you, Jessica.
Okay, thank you. I always love hearing from you guys. I feel like it's so hard to get really like straightforward and honest information. And I love the way you break it down. Like you go through the industries and then you go through like the geographic areas and you just kind of help bring it all into focus in a way that I think it's like, I mean, it would be impossible for all of us on the audience side to figure this out on our own. So every time I'm like sitting in one of these, I just appreciate how, just how you lay it all out and make it really easy to just see the whole picture and break it down by like what level of Japanese do we really need? And it's like that's very, just we're all Jets and Jet alums, so it becomes really relatable. So thank you so much.